Hey, everybody. This is Fandom Entanglement. I am Damon Sugamelli, and this is my co-host,
Yep.
Mike
Hi, I'm
Block.
Mike Bloxham.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, David. How about yourself?
Very tired, but we wanted to start doing something new. We're moving on from Quantum Leap, and we're doing Sliders, a retro review of
Yes.
Sliders. And if you're watching along with us, I guess we'll try to avoid spoilers until maybe toward the end. Because admittedly, this is one of those shows that we're fans of it. We've actually, have you seen every episode, Mike?
I have not seen every episode. I'm certain I've seen all of seasons 1 and 2 back in
Mhm.
the day, and then maybe in reruns. But seasons 3 through 5 are a bit foggier for me, which apparently is a good thing. But you know, we will endure, we will persevere, and we will watch all of the series together.
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get through it. We'll have, I think, there will people join us occasionally. Brian Green was going to try to start doing this with us as the newbie, and he watched the pilot, and he couldn't get into it, which is fine. Admittedly, when I watched this first time, rewatch with my wife, she had a little hard time at first. She's like, "Oh no, this is okay." But we did the rewatch with her and my mother-in-law, I don't know, maybe a little less than a year ago. But yeah, we got up to like season 5, and we had to like skip to the end.
Right.
So that should say something. We're gonna try. We'll have people join us who have seen the show. If you're watching it for the first time, admittedly, it's a little hard to um, recommend the show because of all the ups and downs of the show. But I'm kind of looking forward to when we get to even the bad ones.
Yeah.
It does get bad sometimes. I'll admit it. But Sliders it originally aired on Fox. Actually, the air date we have is March 22nd, 1995. That was
Right.
because we're going to talk about the pilot, which was a 2-hour pilot. And it aired on Fox. Uh, I guess one note that we'll make on this is that I think we're going to go in story continuity order
Right.
because when it was on Fox, they showed the episodes out of order. This is
Yeah,
before, yeah, this is
that
before
seems to be
like,
Fox's MO is to show
oh,
episodes out of order.
yeah, I think Firefly did that. Yeah,
Firefly was messed up. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, much to the co-creators' chagrin. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah, that he tried. He had a battle with the networks. There's all these stories going on behind the scenes. And he tried to do like somewhat of a try to get continuity going from one episode to
Sure.
the next, and they just wanted to pigeonhole the show into a episodic thing every week because this is before we had like Lost and Heroes
Right.
and those other shows. So this was still in that era in the 90s where they just wanted it to be a certain something, and eventually he kind of gave up. So but it's definitely important for the first season. It should be continuity order,
Yeah.
I think, which is mostly production order. And it's basically it's similar to Quantum Leap, the show, in that these are people who are traveling through different alternate realities. We're doing the multiverse before Marvel made it like a cool thing. And every week was a new world they went to, sometimes more than one, and that was the general concept. And they couldn't find their way home, so that's kind of where the similarities end with Quantum Leap, I guess, because this
Mm,
was more of I guess we call it like a dark humor, dark comedy, kind of. It's like a satire on. At least that's how the show started,
yeah.
I think. So, okay. So with that in mind, just give people context on it. I guess we'll start talking about the pilot episode, and I guess we'll do like ratings at the end. I don't think we did that beforehand.
We
You have like
didn't,
an
but yeah, you're
idea?
right. We could. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, but we could try to do like a rating system, like I guess out of 10 of what we thought.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll have to think about that. But all right, so I'm getting these little brief synopses from a website called earthprime.com, and I've been in contact. He said, "Oh yeah, feel free to use our stuff." He might join us for some. He said he'll think about it. That would
That'd
be
be
cool to get like somebody who's
yeah.
like the sort of like the Brian of Sliders.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian
Yeah.
has Al's place. This guy has like this website because it's been around for years. So yeah, this aired March 22nd, 1995. As I said, the synopsis on there is while researching anti-gravity, brilliant grad student Quinn Mallory accidentally opens an interdimensional portal which sends him and three companions on a cosmic roller coaster ride to parallel Earths. I'm just going to say right off the bat, also, my youngest brother's named Quinn. So when this show came out, I was like, oh, that's so cool. The lead character is named Quinn. Because it's not a name you hear very often.
It's true. Yeah.
And as they say in the beginning, our stars are Jerry O'Connell as Quinn Mallory. We have Sabrina Lloyd as Wade Wells. I think I never knew how to say his name. Clevant or Clevant? I think it's Clevant.
That's a very good question. Maybe we should get him on sometime and ask him how to pronounce his name.
we have to really. I think it's Clevant. I think Clevant Derricks as Rembrandt, the Crying Man Brown, and the and role, and John Rhys Davies as Arturo. He's Professor Maximilian Arturo. Well, I guess as we talk about each character, we'll say what we think about them and what our initial impressions are of each character as we go. I guess, or
Sure.
Yeah, I guess so. The screenplay is by Tracy Tormé, the story by Robert K. Weiss and Tracy Tormé. They are the co-creators. Should also just note too that it happened in January that Tracy Tormé did pass away. So I guess we'll dedicate this first one to him. I know he's been trying to get Sliders back up for a while. I don't know how that's going to happen now without him, but
maybe an animated version, kind of like Star Trek Lower Decks.
Maybe. But, I don't know.
Not wacky and zany like Star Trek Lower Decks, but
yeah. Well, we'll talk about that at some point. That if they reboot Sliders, it's almost like they'd have to do a full-on reboot of the show because
they would. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a multiverse and stuff, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get there. And directed by Andy Tennant. I guess I'll go through the guest cast. They don't list them until the end.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the guest stars are Linda Henning as Mrs. Mallory, Joseph A. Wapner as Commissar Wapner, Doug Llewellyn as Comrade Llewellyn, Garwin Sanford as Doc, and I'm just going to go through them quick, even though it says featuring, because some of these are kind of important characters.
Yes.
Featuring Roger R. Cross as Wilkins, Yi G. So as Wing, Frank C. Turner as Crazy Kenny, Gary Jones as Hurley, John Novak as Ross J. Kelly / Interrogator, Don McKay as Artie Field, Alex Bruhansky as Pavel, Jay Drazo as KGB Colonel, Andrew Cavadas as Fender, Suk Yin Lee as Pat, Wayne Cox as PBS spokesman, Raul Gani as the Sentry, and Tom Butler as Michael Mallory. And unaccredited in it is Harry Shearer is the voice of Day Tripper, which we'll talk about. It's such an unmistakable voice too. It's like
absolutely, yeah.
Like I'm thinking I'm watching The Simpsons or something.
Yeah.
And Jason Gaffney as Conrad Benish Jr. Because there's a storyline to Jason Gaffney. I think we'll mention him in. He wanted to use him a lot more, that character, but I think Fox didn't want to use him. We'll get into that, I guess, in future episodes. Sure. I think. All right, so I guess do we want to just get into what our first impressions are when we first saw the pilot?
Sure.
First,
yeah. I mean, I don't remember my first impressions way back in 1995, but my first impressions watching it again just recently was it's a really solid pilot. Honestly, it introduces us to the characters. It introduces us to the whole concept of the show. There are some key dialogue in this episode that explain to us what's going on, and then they do a really good job, especially the whole of part 2, showing us what the show can do. So like I said, I don't remember 29 years ago what my thoughts were when it aired, but I watched it. I had I think I called it Nostalgia 3000. It was
Yeah, you did.
it was a nice nostalgic feel watching this, and yeah, I enjoyed it, and it's made me really want to keep doing these retro reviews for this show.
Yeah. I think at the time when I watched it, Quantum Leap had been, I guess, off the air for 2 years.
Mm,
Mirror Image had aired in '93. So it was
right.
like I hadn't had any show I was watching, and then I heard about this. I'm like, let me check this show out. It was one of those like mid-season replacements, so the first season is really short. Um, I don't think I had much experience with Jerry O'Connell at that time.
Me
Um,
neither.
I mean, John Rhys Davies, we knew him from basically Indiana Jones.
Right.
That's where I knew him from anyway. It was like, and then just, like other little roles here and there. So I'm like, oh, he's a great actor. I love him. Um, and and yeah, I watched it and I was like, I always loved the what if scenarios.
Hmm.
So that was always like my next, other than time travel, that's like my other thing is like I just
Yes.
love knowing, like just trying to figure out what like how things could have been if it was this or that, whatever. So I was really into it. I did like it when it began, and it felt very much like um, maybe not so much in the beginning, but then from like the next week and the week after that, I'm like, oh, so they're doing a different thing every week. This is like Quantum Leap. I was getting my
Yeah.
Quantum Leap fix from the show.
Yeah.
So, and the first season was really good. I like the second season too. I think that they're kind of like almost like one whole season.
That makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
because they're both like half seasons, and then season three is, well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
The show has its ups and downs, but the concept was a really good one, I thought. So, um, yeah. So I guess we want to just kind of go through. We'll try to just go through kind of like scene by scene. I don't know how much of a deep dive we want to do, but well, I'll start that it's basically like that title card that says in a San Francisco basement. So it sets us up with, that this is where it takes place.
Right.
So okay, so we see that title card, and I like how just it kind of establishes with Quinn. We see that he's like into basketball, and the telescope says like I break for asteroids. I don't have this in the notes, but he likes the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
He has all the little dinosaurs around. That's kind of going to play into something later on too. So I like kind of how they show everything there, where it gives us a little insight into who he is, and then he wakes up and we hear Day Tripper on the radio, who's like basically like the Howard Stern, I guess.
I
Back then, I
I
don't know how Day
guess. Yeah. It
is
was.
Stern now, but
Yeah.
this is kind of like with the talking about the first annual Miss Nude feminist pageant. It's like all these angry gals coming in to take their tops off. You don't want to miss it. You see Ed Quinn is like, oh, like, oh, Day Tripper. um, yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with like, I guess San Francisco is known for like people just are like bums there or something. Because he's like, I understand you people. What are you guys people still doing up? Like, what are you still doing in bed? I mean, I can understand everybody's San Francisco, but all you other people,
Yeah.
it's like a shot at San Franciscans. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe at the time that was the impression. I'm not sure.
Or he's just being like a stupid radio
Yeah.
personality. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we kind of find out right off the bat that he has the conversation with his mom because he's living at home. He's a college student, and she's talking about working himself to death and like just like your father. And he's like, he got hit by a car,
Yeah.
but he was on his way to work.
Yeah.
That's important. That's important later on, but I guess he was driving to work or something. Yeah, and he had that really nice, that playful attitude with his mom because he's like the man of the house, but she's like still like, oh, I'm gonna turn your bed into a bed and breakfast, and she's like, hey, don't get smart with me. She's like trying to whip him with that towel or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but he's on his way to run to I like when he's running off to the class and he's running through the park and he's jumping over that guy who's like just laying there minding his own business. What the heck
Yeah.
are you doing?
I found it interesting though. Quinn comes into the classroom and it's late,
Mhm.
but but he knows the answer to the question, but refuses to give it to him. And I'm not sure.
Doodling.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the for you, or he signs it before.
Oh, U4, yeah.
U4, sorry, yeah, U4, yeah. Write that down.
Not you too, Mr. Benish.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot to mention that the episode actually starts before we even see this title screen, that we're seeing the video diary of Quinn. That's like the most important part. We forgot to mention that he's talking about how he opened this portal, and it's like he's just going crazy and everything.
Right.
So that kind of set up everything. We completely glossed over that, but sorry, Mike.
It's all right.
Yeah, and he was running through the park, and that crazy Kenny was like the bum there, who's like the homeless guy who's already talking about communism spreading through
Yes.
the nation. He's just like not taking him seriously. So like this is all foreshadowing as to what's going to happen. And what's that? And the line that it's just Arturo's dialogue is just, I don't know if real people talk like that or if that's just John Rhys Davies, just like this intellectual topper. It may be sufficient to earn you a job at NASA or Chernobyl. And like it's like you see his ego.
Yeah.
It's like. And then he's running to his job after work to, what is it, the Doppler store?
Yes.
It's like a superstore. It's like a Best Buy type place, computer store,
right.
And he immediately introduced to Wade. I liked Wade when I first saw her. I thought she was like, she's like the girl next door. She's just, I don't know, her attitude was just, I liked her a lot. So
yeah, she's a good character. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she was trying to, because she was telling these people who were going to buy the computer to wait to get the newer model in, and then Hurley comes in like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, and Quinn's trying to say, "Hey, I told you about those," and he has that really stupid line: "If it weren't for my mistakes, you'd be out of a job."
Yeah.
You hear what you're saying though, Hurley?
Yeah.
Your mistakes, like. And you can tell she's all over him too, and he's like so clueless.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Right away, she's like all over him. I got tickets to the game and all this, and he's just like,
yeah,
come on, Quinn.
Totally oblivious.
Totally oblivious. And then he comes back home. The gate squeaks. Yeah. Another really important detail. And he finishes his video diary. I think it's supposed to be in 1994, even though, because I guess it was supposed to be September. So if the show had premiered in September, it would have been September 94.
Right. The copyright date at the end was 94.
Yeah.
That would have been when it was filmed.
Yeah. So I forget the exact date, what it is. It's like middle of September that we're seeing all these the video entries, and he's making that report.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's like September 23rd or something around there. Yeah.
Yeah, he tested it on he threw the basketball in, and then it came back to him like 20 minutes later or something. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it was the basketball. So he said, "Oh, I'm gonna finally go through this thing." I like how he zooms in. He's like, "I am going to step through and see what's on the other side." And he was gonna put the cat in, but he couldn't live with himself. The cat's Schrodinger.
Yeah, Schrodinger. Yeah.
So we're finally seeing like the really, you could tell this is like the 90s with the special effects and that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a cool effect. It's like almost like a glass type of, like you're seeing through the mirror, and I mean, at the time it was kind of a cool effect. And he jumps through, doesn't think anything because he's still in the basement, but that's when he starts driving, and like even the cat's looking at him like, "What are you doing here?" Because he starts driving, and it's like that old trope of you're in another universe and everything's in reverse, where red means go, green means stop.
Yeah.
And he's Tripper's talking again on the radio about you mentioned like global cooling.
Well, yeah, he's going on. He hits all these topics, which are, like you said, the opposite of our current planet, where it's global cooling instead of global warming. Vinyl winning over CDs. Which, as you point out, vinyl's making a comeback, but that's more of a retro field. And than practicality, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's digital is really
Yeah.
how everyone gets their music. But
you still see, like, I go to Walmart and I still see vinyl records there. It's like
right,
it's never died. It was like it
yeah,
thought it was going to die, but it didn't. So
yeah,
it's weird. It's funny that they mention that.
yeah. And then he mentions Americans emigrating to Mexico, getting like, and
If they
and
want a better way of life and better jobs, like, then
yeah,
right, it was like, and good riddance to you. Or
that's
something like
right,
that.
yeah. And then Jack Kennedy as president, like,
Yeah, how many terms did he have?
yeah, I don't know. Is this a world where there is no term limit and he's been
Maybe.
president since the 60s? I don't
Yeah,
know,
maybe. Yeah.
but he was still with Maryland, right?
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah. You go to bed with Marilyn. If you wake up every morning, that's where you want to stay every morning.
And then, of course, the billboards with Elvis Presley on tour. So
Yeah, yeah.
this if for a first time viewer, I think this would really grab you because it's like, oh, what where is he? What is going on?
Right. He's running, coming back home, and then he notices that the gate doesn't squeak. And then he sees that this, like, really gets him, is that he sees his mom is pregnant with and she's with Jake the gardener, who we saw earlier when he was leaving. But now she's pregnant. She has, like, the brown, like, that really weird wig that she's
Yeah,
wearing, glasses. Yeah, Jakey's our gardener. That's what you were saying in the notes. Is like,
yeah. That lane just
and he set the timer for 20 minutes, and now the timer that he made, it hit 20-minute mark, and he got sucked back into his basement.
he built a retrieval program that works. Sam Beckett
Yeah,
wasn't so lucky in Quantum Leap,
yeah,
but Quinn's retrieval program is fully functional.
yeah. So then he's so excited. He goes back to the store, and it's just when you hear, like, the sound effects, it's like there's like this little boop, 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 like you ever watch these TV shows and, somebody's doing something on a computer or playing a video game, and it's like they're still using these old, like like 80s sound effects or 70s, like
Right.
it's like they can't use anything modern. It just always, it's a little side note that I made that just always drives me nuts. I hear it and I'm like, you can't just use something. I guess it's like licensing, I don't know. It's these generic sound effects that they use.
Right, right.
um but anyway, she's like, what are you doing here? Wade's like, what are you doing here? You got fired, and you're gonna tell me that kiss meant nothing?
Yeah.
And it's, why would I kiss you? We're buds, right? It would be like incest. Like,
Yeah.
come on, Quinn. Come on.
Oh, poor clueless Quinn.
uh, and then is this where he goes? So he does go to. Did he go? Oh no! Did he go here first, or did he go back to his class first? I don't know.
Oh,
Well, whatever. He did
doesn't
these two.
matter.
He did both of them before he went home. He went back to his class trying to. He was so excited to tell Arturo, and then he's like, and Arturo's like very visibly flustered. He's like, "Get out of my class! Like, don't ever talk
Yeah.
about my theories like that again." And Benish is like, "Congrats, man! Like, you told us there's a blowhard to his face." So, admittedly, I think that part was a little confusing when I first saw it. I'm like, "What's going on here?
Yeah. Yep.
Why is this like a side effect or whatever?" And
Hmm.
we're figuring it out along with Quinn.
Right.
And we see Quinn comes home. His mom is watching this guy Ross J. Kelly on
Oh, right.
TV, a little infomercial. Oh, I'll fight for you. And because that's important as well, Ross J. Kelly. I love his line where he's like, "Mom, have I done anything to upset you today?" And she's like, "Not that I'm aware of. Are you planning to?"
Yeah.
God, I hope not. It's just the way she says it, like, "Are you planning to, like, upset me with something?" And then it goes down to the basement and sees his equation solved, and we meet Quinn too.
Right.
And this was my question: is did because so we find out that Quinn, this other Quinn, is from another parallel dimension, completed the equation for him, and he's face to face with himself. So he's obviously the one that's been doing all the stuff in Quinn's life. So he's been there. When did he come in the house? That was my question? Did his mom not know that Quinn was in the basement? Like,
I assume so. I think if anyone would detect a double, it would be his mother. But
yeah, but he comes through the door and it's like, did she not know that there was a Quinn downstairs in the basement already?
yeah, I imagine she didn't. But you're right. That's never really clarified.
Because I know that she says that she never knows where he is from one moment to the next, but it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, did he sneak in? I don't know. Because he didn't
Maybe.
slide in because he's been there.
Yes.
That's why I was thinking that.
He's been there. Yeah. Angering professors and kissing coworkers.
Yeah, and getting him fired. He says, I did you a favor with Hurley. He's a putz in every world. But he explains the whole sliding thing to him, coins the term sliding.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. He says, this happens to be my 8th slide. So he's been at it for a little while. He's actually dressed a little bit better because he's a little smug in his attitude. He's like, I think we think alike mostly. And he's just like looking at him. He's been to a world where the Cubs have won 3 straight World Series.
Yeah.
Get out. Or when did the Cubs win the series? That was, I remember it was a big deal when that happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big baseball fan.
yeah, me neither. But and then he talks about being to a place where there's like no war. It's like basically a utopia.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody was afraid there. I want to find that world again someday because he explains it's like a roulette wheel and you spin the wheel, you never know where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And just as a little side note, that we are going to find out about that world later on. I think it was confirmed by Tracy Tormé that it's a little bit of a spoiler, but when we get to the season finale, we're gonna find out what that world was. So that was a foreshadowing as well. And then his timer goes off, and he doesn't get to warn our Quinn in time. You'd think he would you'd think that would be one of the first things he'd tell him, like, oh, by the way, whatever you do, and he just gets away. Trying to tell him something's going to go wrong. If you do something, this is, don't do this. You think that would be the first thing he would have said?
You would think so, yes.
Yeah.
That's part of the mystery. And then one of the critical things he said there too, which I think describes the series as a whole, is it's the same planet, it's just a different dimension.
Right.
Quinn Prime, I guess we'll call him. Thought it could be, different, traveling to different places, but nope, you're always on Earth. You're always in the same place. It's just
right. Mm-hmm.
Some other multiverse.
Yeah. Right. So this is kind of where we're getting into it now, where he invites Wade and Arturo to the house because he wants them to test it out. And this is where we cut back and forth with them and our introduction to Rembrandt.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you want to talk about Rembrandt for a bit?
Oh, well, it was pretty hilarious, I thought. Starting off with this video from the 70s. I assume it's the 70s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess it's his agent or his manager.
Yeah, that was Artie.
Yeah.
That was his manager. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Just watching this old video of him, and then you see the new Rembrandt who's making a comeback.
Mm-hmm. It's Cry Like a Man.
Yeah.
Big afro.
My friends ask me why I cry. It's 'cause I feel like I wanna die.
The new and improved Remy, I guess, is in this gold suit and looking quite garish, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he thinks it's good.
Yeah.
He's wearing the red, pink, white, and green ribbons.
He's wearing all.
And he says something about it being the 90s.
Like 90s, baby, honestly, totally 90s.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't know which colors meant what. But obviously,
I looked it up
HIV,
before.
AIDS.
I looked up before. Yeah, it was like AIDS awareness. I guess the
Oh, were
white.
these all around? The rest of them in the early 90s?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay,
I
I
think
didn't
it's, like,
realize it'd
different.
been around for so long. But
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why he was saying, it's like, this is the 90s, baby. I got all these awareness ribbons on me. Yeah, I think that the
right.
white is like violence against women, pink is
Mm.
for breast cancer awareness, green is mental health. I think the point of it, though, is that he's putting all of these together just haphazardly, not really understanding
Yeah.
if it means. He just wants to be. It's a fad. He's like, this is. I'm. See. Look, I'm aware.
Yeah.
He's just. He means well, but he's thinking about going to sing the anthem, and Artie's telling him, it's like, you're singing the anthem. You're not singing for the Queen or whatever, right?
Yes.
And he's he's talking about how he's like, oh, I loved you with the spinning top, because that's the video he's watching, and they had 15 #1 hits without you. He's like, 13, and they were all flukes.
Yeah.
They're all flukes, huh?
All 13. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're cutting back and forth with him, because he's basically going to be on his way driving in his red Cadillac, right?
Mhm.
It was his Cadillac. He's gonna be driving to the stadium, and we're cutting back and forth with him and seeing Arturo. They're in Quinn's basement discussing, like, is this safe to travel? And it's like, well, my double's done it 8 times, and Arturo is like, I don't think this is a good idea. But I like his one line when he sees the equation solved, and he's
Right.
like, this is the holy grail. And it says, this elegance is found here in the basement of this unknown, unkempt, unpublished, unfortunately brilliant, ill-mannered brat.
Yes.
And they just agree that they're just going to go on this. Wade's like, oh, you try to figure out the calculations. We're going to go for a spin around the universe. And Arturo's like, okay, I guess in the interest of science, I will join you.
Yep.
And they're trying to figure out how much power to use. And he's like, God help us. And meanwhile, Rembrandt is there getting in his car practicing the anthem. It's just, I mean, like, it's like the bombs bursting in air over there. Oh, I'm like, stop embellishing the anthem. He's like, what are you doing? And then he's in his car. He's like, Rembrandt, everybody, Rembrandt Brown.
Yep.
So sick. Oh my God, Remy. It's like, it's clear that they're kind of making him the comic relief of the episode, because he does feel kind of shoehorned in. Like where did he come from? It's like he would never be with them in any other circumstance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because then he's driving through. I guess he took a detour
through
down
a residential neighborhood, apparently.
Residential neighborhood when they're turning up the power. And if you want to.
Well, yeah. So here's my first WTF moment of the pilot. He turns up the power, and sure, they get sucked in, but then the wormhole starts moving, and there's, I mean, maybe we don't get an explanation because there's no scientists there to observe it, but I get it from a plot point of view, but it still felt a little far-fetched the way that just turning up the power would make it dislodge itself from where it had been created in the basement, and then it went through the house, down the street,
moving,
and it stopped in front of Remy's car. Like, I get it, it's supposed to absorb Remy in his car, but why didn't it do anything to the house or the trees and all the other living things it passed by first? It it only accepts human beings and automobiles. I just just a strange question, but I was like, well, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense scientifically, but I get they had to just move the plot along.
Yeah, because I think I admit, even when I saw that, it was like it didn't really look like it was getting bigger. It just kind of looked like it moved. So, I mean, it was supposed to be getting bigger, like growing larger.
Right.
But like you said, why didn't it take in anything else? It is a bit odd. And then his car crashes right into an iceberg, and we're on what we call Tundra World. So, and I think that's one of my favorite lines from this episode, is when Arturo is there. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I think I just saw God, and I could swear he was driving a Cadillac.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the best lines in the whole pilot. That's not verbatim, but and then Wade is like, "This was better than sex." I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
And you kind of see the little blue screen effect when they finally step outside the house and you see like the Golden Gate Bridge frozen over. They talk about, oh, hell did freeze over,
Right.
and they're getting inside Remy's car to explain everything. Yeah, and I guess the simplest explanation of this world, because I kind of wanted to get into where we think the histories diverged, and it's all Arturo's explanation is just that he thinks it suffered a terrible cataclysm. It could have been the polar ice caps shifting out of alignment.
Somebody said a nuclear winter.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't look like anybody could possibly be alive, right? I mean,
no.
I don't know if it's just happening there or it has to be happening all over the world. I mean, San Francisco was like, it's the whole,
it's fairly temperate.
Yeah. And but that's another example of how like little differences, like they're looking through the house at first and he sees that the family picture, which we saw a family picture earlier in the episode of him and his parents together, right? And I guess they were in like, I don't know where they were. It looked like they were in an amusement park or something.
It did look like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then the new picture is them with his dog Bopper, who he lost as a kid, and the sister that he never had.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. Like,
yeah.
Again, what if scenarios? It's like a younger sister. And then Arturo is trying to explain to him, because at this point the timer, he says, well, we set our timer for 5 hours, so now it's been like about an hour, and he says the timer will return us in 4 hours, and he says 4 hours, it's like 4 years here. And then Arturo makes that explanation. String theory dictates that time will remain the same in all parallel worlds, present day, wherever we are. In fact, time will always remain concurrent during all interdimensional slides. Like, you want to run that by me again in English?
Yeah.
He mentioned string theory, which is interesting.
Well, I think that's probably the real string theory. The string theory quantum leap is Sam's own string theory.
Yeah, it's kind of something that's made up.
Yeah.
Oh, and he did mention, I think there's some inconsistency here, but he talked about crossing, when he first talked to Arturo in the beginning, he's like, I crossed the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge, which is supposed to be the wormhole. I don't know how accurate I think something there is not. I think they made something up there. I'm not sure if it's all.
Oh, quite possibly, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But and you talk about the Snownado.
Well, the Snownado is like the graphics were pretty bad, and again, I understand it's 1994 when this was created, but it reminded me of The Day After Tomorrow, the 2004 film, which had similar cataclysms of the world becoming frozen and snow hurricanes and snow tornadoes. But apparently in The Day After Tomorrow, it also had Americans illegally crossing into Mexico. So it's
I remember that.
Two ties here between Sliders and the film. I wondered if there was a Sliders fan who was on the writing team for the movie.
Maybe.
Or it's just a strange coincidence.
Yeah. It could be the coincidence. I don't know. This was like what, 8 years before that? Or something? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That tornado's coming. He's like, I don't care if it's we had to get out of here right now, because it's basically tearing the hood off of his car. I guess my question is, could they have gone back to the house and just took shelter there, or did they not have enough time?
I don't know. I feel like they were in the car to stay warm because they were able to use their body heat and the candles, I guess, to keep the car warm. So the house obviously was not an option. Sorry, I shouldn't say obviously. I don't think the house was an option because they probably would have had a lot harder time staying warm in there.
Yeah.
So it's just Quinn couldn't have known where they were going to travel to. If he'd set it for 20 minutes, everything would have been fine. They would have been back.
Oh yeah, home. Of course. Oh, of course. Yeah.
But he won, 5 hours. He's like, well, that'll give us lots of time to explore and come back if we don't like it type of thing. Well, they want to come back. Their plan wasn't ever to leave their
Yeah,
own
yeah.
dimension, but
Yeah, I think he said he'll come back in time for dinner and they'll have class
yeah,
tomorrow. Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's something they could have. I mean, that tornado was coming. Like, like, is there anywhere else they could have gone to try to stay? Because he's like, I don't think we should leave early because my double tried to warn me. He's like, I don't. We got to get out of here now.
yeah,
So I'm just trying to think. We're looking at this now, like almost 30 years later. Like, I know it's for the plot. They have to do something to get them out of there early to get us into the predicament that we're going to
yeah,
come into in part two.
right,
Because yeah, so they shoot, and he shoots that portal up.
yeah,
Like they all have to jump up off that car.
yeah,
This is kind of something that happens in the show a lot, where it's like I don't know why they don't have it like right in front of them. Sometimes it's like sometimes it's just they have to jump off a ledge or something, or
right,
it does happen a lot in the show where it's
yeah.
just like I don't know how Quinn got up out of there. I mean, we don't find out until the second part, but
Yeah,
he looked at everybody and pushed him up, and then it looked like he was like he didn't have enough room to jump up there, and that thing was closing quick.
yeah. Well, I wonder if there was an updraft that shoved him up through
I
it
don't know,
from the
but
tornado. But
yeah, but they arrive in Golden Gate Park, and it's taken a while for Quinn to show up, and Wade is just there crying, begging him, oh please Quinn, come through. They can't jump back through because he's like that can take us anywhere if we try to go back. It leads to an infinite number of places. If he didn't make it, we'll never see him again. So if you're watching this, if you watch the pilot on, I think like Peacock or something, this is where part one ends,
Mhm.
and it says to be continued, and then part two kind of begins right here as well. I give you a recap. But when this first aired, this was all one big movie.
Right.
So, so this is where part two begins. Quinn finally falls through. Our Wade is crying, and Quinn really is so clueless. It's like, why are you crying? Did you hit your head? He's like, yeah, maybe I need to have it examined.
Yeah.
I thought I was clueless, like when I was younger, but like, come on, Quinn. I
Yeah.
obviously liked you, And this is where I really love Rembrandt because he's looking at the time. He's like, oh, I can almost make it. I can almost make the gig. If I had a car, that is.
Yeah.
Just gets in this whole thing. It's just like you got an anthem to sing. I guess I'll catch a cab. It's what a man without a cab is forced to do. Don't ever do that again. It's so funny. And then then we see where they actually are because it's supposed to be a statue of Abraham Lincoln in Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, in the very start of the episode, I wondered why they showed that statue, and here we are.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because it's no longer Abraham Lincoln.
It's Lenin.
Lenin, yes.
Yeah. And then Wade is trying to make a call on a telephone booth. It's PT&T instead of AT&T. And she, they're obviously trying to track her down. She leaves. It says People's Telegraph, People's Telephone and Telegraph.
Yeah.
She's basically getting in trouble for making an unauthorized phone call.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they're chasing him down later. And then, meanwhile, we're cutting back to Rembrandt, who's getting in the cab with Pavel, and he's talking in Russian. He says, "This doesn't age well." This remark, where he's like, "Immigrants, you want to live in the land, you got to learn the language." I used to say the same thing because it's like I mean, this was before, way back when, but it's like the United States actually does not have a national language, which is what is it in
no official language?
I don't think so. Nope.
Oh. Yeah. In Canada, English and French are the two official languages.
That's what I assumed. Yeah. But and then he's asking to put on the baseball game, the Reds game. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's hearing the anthem come on. And what do you think of this line? He says, well, that don't sound right. Must be playing a Canadian team.
I laughed. That was pretty good, especially since in the real world there were two Canadian baseball teams at the time. So
okay.
Yeah. Now there's only one, but yeah. It's pretty good. It sounded nothing like "Oh Canada," but I didn't expect Remy to know what "Oh Canada" sounded like anyway.
Yeah. It's just the way he says that. It's like this is the first of many Canadian jokes they make on this show.
Yeah.
which I think actually doesn't happen until really later on, because I think it has to do with them moving to Vancouver or something to shoot. That I don't know. There's
seasons 1 and 2 were shot in Vancouver.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why.
Right. Yeah, everybody's saluting when they hear it, when they're all driving by.
Yeah.
And they're at it's basically a rally. Now Crazy Kenny is either a senator or he's running for senator,
Yeah.
I guess. And now he's talking about wiping out the imperialist American underground.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of got his wish in this world. He wanted communism to sweep over the world, and now it did.
Yeah.
Remy's turning in the $1 bill for the toll. He gets turned in. Y'all want exact change? They're all like shooting at him, well, not shooting at him, aiming their guns at him. Yeah.
They'll rush in at the toll booth. Yeah.
Right. And that's where he gets interrogated, and they're all in this. I guess it's like all of just these people in these chairs, and everybody's circling around, and they say that the Rembrandt of this world was killed in the Detroit uprising 12 years ago, because I think he's using an alias. And then he has that other line where he's trying to explain what's going on. I was driving along minding my own business when this crazy genius he zaps me into this big black hole. Crazy genius. It's just the lines from him were like, I think it's why we like Remy's character so much. It was just the things that he would say.
Yeah.
And the one who's interrogating him is Ross J. Kelly, because he says, "I'll fight for you."
Yes.
You're a shyster lawyer from TV. And so they said they're going to turn.
And then when he says,
he
says he's going to be tried in the People's Court. I did not expect it to be the Soviet version of the TV show, The People's Court.
Oh my God, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, we're about to get there with that. We're cutting back to Quinn and all them. Arturo's like, anybody hungry? I want to kielbasa. My stomach has no political preferences. That's another good line.
Yeah.
And then they're finally they're getting chased. He throws his kielbasa or whatever, and they basically get led into where the resistance is. And Wade is apparently a commander for this this resistance, and this is where Wilkins comes in, played by Roger Cross. So we can probably say now where Roger Cross comes from. Like, I've seen him in a few things.
Yeah, it took me about 10 seconds, and I went, he was 6 on Dark Matter.
Okay, yeah.
That's where I recognized him from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's done a few things. He was I forget his name now. He was on 24 also for a few seasons.
Was he?
Yeah.
I watched all of 24. I don't remember his character.
I think it was like seasons maybe 4. I want to say like 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
I forget the character's name, but he was like one of the wow, it's been so long since I've seen the show. Like CTU, right?
CTU, yep. He was
one of his 8. He was like one of the other agents. Yeah. He was in that. He actually had like a small role in Fringe, which you didn't see, but yeah, he's been around. He's a good actor. I like him.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, he kind of comes right up to her and just plants a big wet kiss on her mouth, and this is where Quinn finally starts noticing, like,
yeah,
hey, what's this all about? And they explain their story. They're finally convinced that they're from another Earth. That's another really good line that Arturo says, because Quinn, they're chained up, and he says, now my mom lost my dad, and now she lost me, and he says, you're not lost, you're just misplaced.
Mm-hmm. That's
a really good line. I kind of forgot that line, and that's a really good one. I like that one. And they were suspicious because the Arturo of this world is the citizen general.
Mm-hmm.
That leading the penitentiary is from the old college campus, and they tell Arturo that, and he's like, always a leader of men, no matter what the circumstances.
Yes, I laughed out loud at that line too. Just his ego.
What an ego.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And he's like, how did you know she wasn't yours? He's like, well, she's my general and my lover. It's like, I can tell the difference. And then he just looks at Wade, and she's like,
yeah,
taking a sip of her coffee. Like, what exactly happened there? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the alternate history here on this world, which we call what did we? Oh, what they dubbed it
Soviet
communist
world?
world, a Soviet world. Yeah, Soviet world. There's like code names that like the websites use for all of these
Right.
worlds. So this is Soviet world, even though it's probably not the whole world. But
Right.
so what is it? Hold on, I just lost it. Okay, here.
Well, the
So
U.S.
it's
lost the Korean War, and
yeah.
then the Sino-Soviet Empire swept the globe, and
Hmm.
he was calling it the domino theory in reverse, where all the other countries around them
Right.
became part of the Soviet Union, I guess, and the
Yeah.
U.S. was left alone.
Yeah, we were cut off financially or something from like the rest
Yeah,
of
that's
the world.
basically what they're
So
saying.
the
Yeah,
economy collapsed or something,
yeah.
and yeah, and then Arturo says it's on our world it's virtually extinct.
Communism is virtually extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe it felt like that in 1994, but
Mhm.
it seems very bizarre 30 years later to hear someone say that when
Yeah.
China and Russia are still going strong with their communism.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
North Korea,
Mhm.
Cuba.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it just makes you wonder what else is this is where it gets weird because we're seeing some of this, but we're still seeing like American culture, but it's like we now see Hurley is watching TV, and Hurley it's like funny now that he's like the private, and
Yeah.
like Wade is now his superior, and he's like he's like this little guy, and he's like, what is this you're watching? It's prime time. He's watching some weird rap song thing.
Yeah.
We still have this American culture of all of this stuff going on, but it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? They've communized. When
Sure.
it's like the Russianization of American culture,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Which is something that the show does a lot, where they just take American culture and turn it like, well, but put this other spin on it. So how realistic is it where we still be getting all of these? I know it's supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
but how realistic is this where we're seeing this stuff and it's like PBS, like this is pledge week, so
Yeah.
give us our pledge or else
Yeah.
we
'Cause
know
we
where
know.
you live.
Yeah.
And then the People's Court, which is
Yeah.
So what is it
So,
that you said? I missed this.
well, so when there's the guy talking at the start introducing the
Llewellyn, yeah,
case
Doug
kind of
Llewellyn,
out in the
yeah.
hallway or whatever.
Hmm.
It has the People's Court on the wall, but the
Hmm.
R in court is reversed.
Oh wow, I
Kind
missed
of like
that completely.
because that's one of the Russian characters, but
Right,
it's
right,
pronounced like ya, not it's not an R sound.
right.
So
Okay.
if you were reading it would be like the koyar or koyat, I guess. It doesn't make any sense. But I know they were just trying to be silly. It's kind of like the backwards R in Toys R Us where it's still an R,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think here it was supposed to be like the Russian character, which the pronunciation would be wrong. But
Wow, I completely missed that. Wow, see, and it's like, how many times have I seen the pilot? I caught that. Wow, that's a good catch.
yeah,
And he's got the case is the rat caught in a trap. Because that's what the People's Court always had, these really weird puns for the court cases, and it like I said, it's just kind of ridiculous that it's like they actually got Judge Wapner, and
yes,
I don't even know who still does I don't know if it's still Judge Milian. Is that her name? I don't know if she still does the People's Court. I don't even know
oh,
who does the People's Court anymore.
I didn't know
But
if that show. I didn't realize it had continued after
it's
Wapner.
still on. I know it's still on. I know they have like in this era of like Judge Judy, and I think at one point it was her husband. So I don't.
Really?
Yeah. It was Um, and there's not really much he can say because he handed an American bill, and he says he's going to sentence you to 15 years in the Alaskan Gulag. Like 15 years, 15 years. It's like they're just hitting you up over the head with it. Like, don't you mean $15? Like $15?
Yeah.
And then it comes out. How do you feel? Like, how do you think it feels, fool? I am never watching this show again. Small claims my. Bleep.
Yeah.
It's just he just has so many funny lines in the
I
episode.
guess it also means the People's Court is live to air when
Right.
you're watching.
Right. basically now this leads into the whole big action sequence where they have to break him out of the penitentiary, and Arturo has to pretend to be the general. He's really playing into the role, really like getting into it. And there's like, I guess there's so many like little tells, like he uses his right hand for the identification, but it's supposed to be the left hand. Right. So they kind of catch on right away that something's wrong here. But because they're also doing this with the rebellion because this world's Wade is also being held there.
Right. Yes.
So they're gonna try to rescue both of them. The big action sequence with the Dennis McCarthy score, which Dennis McCarthy was like one of the composers on TNG, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Didn't you notice it kind of sometimes sounds like Star Trek from the late 80s?
I honestly didn't notice the music here, but I'll go back and listen. That's worth a re-listen, I guess.
Yeah, I think he did the music for The Next Generation, or I think maybe even like Deep Space Nine, the Berman era of Star Trek.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's like the big, huge score, explosions everywhere, because we have to have that because we have to have something. Quinn is there in the caravan with Wade, and he sees the blood, I guess, or whatever. Like she basically is dying.
Yeah.
This is the question I had. He said, "Stop the truck! Stop the truck!" They just blew up the damn compound with a grenade launcher. So you think that they're going to be chasing after them. And he said, "Stop. We have like, what, 2 or 3 caravans here that just are stopped in the middle of the street." I know he's concerned about Wade, but like, you just blew the damn thing up with a grenade launcher. But we have to have something. And we realize, of course, this is the other Wade, because the real Wade is there, like Quinn, and he's finally, it's like, we're realizing he finally cares, like, I guess about her a lot more than he thought he did. And then they come back, and Rembrandt is singing that rendition of Amazing Grace. What do you think of that, of him singing there?
You're right. It was wonderful. It was appropriate, and it was emotional. It was well done.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about it is maybe it's just I think Amada pointed out when we watched it, it's the way he sings sometimes, where it was like he like reverberates in the throat.
Okay,
he's a great singer, but it's a little distracting. I mean, it's a great, like I said, great rendition of it. It just is like there's I guess it's just the way he's singing, because like Amada was musically trained, so I think it's something that she pointed out a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But Clement, you're a great singer. You're great. I don't want to say anything bad. That's just something that we noticed. But anyway, so they basically, this was like the big win that they needed to spread across the country to try to get out of this communist rule. Quinn is trying to figure out with Arturo how to get back. They're trying to fix the timer and try to increase the chances if they go back to Golden Gate Park, and Arturo's pulling out the slide rule.
Yeah.
Back in the old days.
It's another WTF moment for me is, why was he carrying a slide rule around with him?
Was it at the, maybe it was just somewhere there in the shelter where they were? I don't know.
He pulled it out of his coat pocket, like out of his jacket. Yeah. Yeah, he says a slide rule, and then he just pulls it out of his coat and kind of holds it there. To me, I think he brought it from Earth Prime. It was there the whole time.
Yeah, he just happens to be carrying around a slide rule in case of emergencies, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think the Underground would have had a slide rule laying around in their coffin.
Probably right, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
Again, like you said, there's supposed to be some comedic aspects here, but that it made me laugh. I was still confused and about how he had it, but
yeah. Well, so this is basically, we're getting close to the end, where now so they're leaving. Because we're at a point where it's just basically they can still just slide at will. They just have to, because this kind of plays into stuff later on, where it's like they have a time limit as to when they actually can leave. Right now they don't have that. It's just whenever they just figured out when they can slide. It's like, okay, we're going to find a safe place to do this. They leave. They immediately get in trouble again. He's like, "What are you doing out? You're breaking curfew. We don't have time for
Yeah.
this." And she just like, it's like they can't go for 1 minute without getting in trouble, apparently. And then this is the famous shot of them running that we see in the opening
Right.
credits. Right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is like they always go back to this shot. Finally open the portal. They're back in Golden Gate Park. Everything seems normal. They see Crazy Kenny sleeping. He gives him some money and sprinkles in one of those Russian bills. It's hard to see, but he gives him one. And they have the same cab driver, Pavel. This freaks Rembrandt out. He's like,
Right.
"He's the guy
Once
that turned me
they're
in."
in the next
Yeah.
the next Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I'd recognize you. You're spinning tops. The black, right? There's like a big price on the black market for tops." It's like, "Well, that does it for home."
Yeah.
Star Earth. And Arturo, they get out of the cab, and Arturo's like, "Pay the man, Rembrandt." Like, that's kind of like presumptuous to say pay him. Like, like you could do it, Arturo. You could.
Yeah.
But, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Dos Vidani. Yeah, Arrivederci." He has absolutely no idea. So he's finally home, and he's like, "This gate has been squeaking since I don't know how old he was. I forget.
He said since he was 12 years old.
Something like that."
Said,
So,
yeah.
so just remember, everybody, this is the ultimate test, because if that gate doesn't squeak, they can't possibly be home, right? They
Right.
just there's nothing else that can be done to get that gate to stop squeaking in any other world, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just all remember that. That's important. So it's squeaking. Okay, we're home. Yay! And everything seems right. They're all sitting around, celebrating. They talk about the possibilities. Arturo is considering destroying the thing because, again, he's talking about Einstein and the atomic bomb and the one regret that he had, and Oppenheimer. This is all foreshadowing another future episode coming up very soon. So it talks about all that. They might have found worlds where they've gotten rid of cancer, and all this is like, well, there are worlds that could have perfected new
cancers. Yeah.
Right. But they're just deciding what they're going to do, and then this is where the big cliffhanger is, where Quinn's father walks through the door, who we know is supposed to be dead, and they all look at him, and Quinn's mom is the only one that like smiling at him, like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he says, "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." And then Quinn drops the glass of wine, realize they're not home. Yeah. This is a very similar world, which is apparently dubbed Public Transit World, probably because I guess on this world he took the bus instead of driving to work. I don't know.
Oh,
that's probably what it was. I guess because now he didn't drive to work, he didn't get killed.
Right.
I don't know. Something stupid, something silly. But I figured I'd mention that. So this kind of sets up the whole series now. And the only other thing is, if you're watching the end credits, you got to watch the end credits because we see the whole video.
Yes.
Cry like a man with the other dancers, and he's like, "I got a tear coming out of one eye, and now I got the tear coming out of the other eye. Somebody give me a handkerchief, please." It's so dumb. It's so stupid. It's
extremely silly. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll just point out that I thought he was all the way on the right, but at the end credits, he's the guy in the middle. We're going to see that backup singer again as well. He's one of his backup singers. His name is Maurice Fish. We're going to see him toward the end of the season. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's the same actor too, so
makes sense.
So that's the pilot. So I know I did a lot of the talking, Mike, but
yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
So
like
I had a few I guess comments or what have you here about some of the background, I guess. So we talked already about Roger Cross. How I said like fans of Dark Matter will recognize him. Who played Six. Well, Dark Matter was also filmed in Toronto, so Again, another Canadian film production.
Yeah.
Canadians may also recognize Suk-Yin Lee, who played Pat. She was one of the militia people.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah.
she's well known here because she was a VJ on Much Music from
Okay.
1995 till 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of left Much Music to do a radio program on CBC Radio called Definitely Not the Opera, later shortened to DNTO. I listened to it all the time on Saturday afternoons when I was driving. So, and she was on that show from 2002 to 2016. So, and she's still acting, writing, and directing films and shows. So she's still active, but maybe she'd come back for a Sliders reunion or remake.
Yeah.
And of course, we mentioned already the pilot was filmed. It says it was filmed entirely on location in Vancouver at the end of the credits there.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that we're seeing a lot of Canadian actors in the pilot, and I think probably going forward for the first 2 seasons anyway, a lot of those guest stars will also be Canadian. So I'll have some comments about their appearances.
Yeah.
But despite it saying that, there were some scenes that were filmed in San Francisco. Like Rembrandt driving around the iconic big sloped hills with the houses.
Right. Yeah.
And then Quinn running around on the campus of I think it was UC Berkeley or
yeah, I think so.
Berkeley, which is not far from San Francisco. So
yeah,
just some kind of background information that I thought was interesting watching it now as like we said, 29 years later, it's
right. Almost 30 years.
Almost 30,
wow.
yeah.
That's, man, I'm feeling old. Wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
I was barely a teenager when this came out. Apparently,
yeah,
so.
I know. Yeah. We're talking about the actors too, and I think that's why we'll definitely also, like, as the seasons go on, because it's supposed to be like some of these people are going to be recurring characters. And
Yeah,
right. Earths. Like I'll say it now. Like, even in the case of Linda Henning, who plays Quinn's mom, she's a different actress in season 2. I think because of the whole Vancouver thing, or it's because they moved or whatever the shot location. So she didn't live there, so they had to recast her, and then she comes back again, I guess, later on in later seasons. So that's just something to look out for too.
Yeah.
I think at the time I watched it, I didn't really notice, but
right.
She apparently was like a singer, and she was in Petticoat Junction, which I'm not familiar with, but
no, me neither. I've heard the term.
Oh yeah, 1960s sitcom Petticoat Junction.
Okay.
Yeah, Linda K. Henning. So yeah, she's been around for a while too.
Yeah. All right.
And incidentally, I liked her the best over the other actress. We'll talk about that when we get there. That's not until season 2, but because we actually don't see his mom very often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we will see Benish again. We're actually going to see him in the next episode. He'll appear briefly at the beginning in continuity order. We'll see him. So we are going to see a few of these characters here and there, which is like in little bit roles here and there. So is there anything else we want to say about this before we wrap it up?
I think we're ready to wrap up.
Yeah. I guess just what our ratings are. You have a rating?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare it to the rest of the series at this point, but like I said at the start, on the whole, it's a really solid pilot. And I would rank it a 9 out of 10, honestly. That's
okay. Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm right there with you. Probably a 9 out of 10. Yeah. It's I liked it. I mean, it hooked me on the show.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the most important part is
That's right.
It hooked me.
Yeah.
As I said before, Brian was going to join us, and because he did the Quantum Leap reviews with us, he just he wasn't into it. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to, do that. It's hard because this is like a 30-year-old pilot. So it's probably a little dated, but I still appreciate it for what it was.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, I love the characters. The show's going to go through a lot of ups and downs, but this is where we saw a lot of promise with the show and what it can do.
Yes.
So yeah, so that is our retro review of the pilot episode for Sliders. And I will check in with people to see if so I just still don't have everything completely set up with the Facebook group. I know we kind of had our group set up, and I had a list of the episodes
Mm-hmm.
I put out there for the few members that we have. I'm working on that, everybody. But we'll work on trying to get something going, like an official site, and people can like leave comments or whatever, beyond the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
But try to get people to maybe if they want to contribute to join us on talking about an episode. I guess I'm open for it. It doesn't have to be like one person per season. It could just be like whatever episodes they want at this point, I guess. So I know we have a few people who already said, yeah, they'll do it. They just have to figure out which ones. So yeah, we'll figure that out. So the next episode in production order and story order is Summer of Love.
Right.
I don't know how we're going to do this if on the playlist. I don't know if I should list them by. I guess we'll figure that out. I don't know if we should do like Summer of Love was actually, I want to say episode number 5.
Okay.
I don't know if we should list it as like 105 and just put it in order in the. I don't know how I don't know if it will be.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so that people know, like, well, you're watching it in production order. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
The important thing is that this is what we're doing. I think that just makes more sense because especially for season 1, it's kind of important. It's not so important in later seasons, but like in season 2, there's a few episodes where the story could really go different ways, or it would have gone a different way, like in a what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say about that. You might know what I'm talking about.
I think I have an idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's like a particular story arc that's could have gone somewhere and whatever. So that's going to be the next one. We'll figure out when we're going to do this regularly. We're doing this pretty late right now. I think we wanted to try to get this going weekly. I don't know. I know you're going to be pretty busy pretty soon. So
we'll do what we can before then.
Yeah. In the meantime, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to share your opinions and your thoughts, leave your comments down below. We'll try to, if we get enough, we'll do some feedback in future episodes. Yeah. And I guess that's it. Until next time, I'm Damon.
And I'm Mike.
And we'll see you out there, guys. Bye.
And a tear falling from my other eye. Brothers, somebody help me a handkerchief, please.